So hi and welcome to another episode of Meet Me Downtown. We are here today at Sandhill Bagel to talk to Katie Doherty, the Executive Director of the Kennebec Valley Chamber of Commerce, who's going to tell us everything about Ironman. Katie, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. You must be exhausted.
Yes. It was a lot planning up to it, and then just the week of is always a lot going on.
Well, and for people who don't know or may not be from here, so this is the second year in a row that Ironman has been here in Augusta. Where did the idea to bring Ironman to Augusta, where did it start?
So it's been in Maine for many years, and it used to be at Old Orchard Beach. And we knew that that contract was coming to an end, and the Maine Sports Commission had reached out and said that they were coming to town and kind of looking for different spots in Maine. So I had a contact there that I had worked with previously with another board that I'm on with the Tourism Council. And so we had them come to Augusta, and we got in the car and I kind of showed them around the Kennebec Valley area. We went from Winthrop to Hollowell to Gardner and Augusta. And originally they just fell in love with the river, the Capitol Park area, the downtown. And so we kind of put in the bid and sold them. The 24 hours they were here, we completely, hospitality is our thing. So we showed them everything that we had, and they went back home. They looked at a couple other sites in Maine, and then they came back to us and said, we really loved Augusta. What can we do to make it happen?
So the concept of the proposal, would love a little bit more detail on how you actually did it, because I'm sure they had a wonderful time, but putting together the bid has got to be a bit of a challenging process.
It wasn't really much. It wasn't like a formal bid. It was really kind of, if we come here, do you have enough hotels? What's the room count? And how many beds do you have? What's the territory and the reach that we can get? Do you have accessibility to other hotels in Lewiston and Waterville, Brunswick? So it was really just selling it. It wasn't like a bid process like a typical RFP you would put out.
That really surprises me. I had no idea that it was actually that easy.
Yeah.
I can't believe we decided to do a whole topic on this. It just sounded like they just showed up and said, yep, let's do it here.
I wish it was that easy.
Had you ever been to an Ironman competition before?
No, not at all. So when they came to town, I did the research, kind of figured it out. When they were in Old Orchard, Old Orchard is very busy in the summer in general. And then you think the influx of people that come in for Ironman, add that to Old Orchard Beach traffic, that was insane. And then they swam in the ocean. So I was like, well, if they swim in the ocean, they can swim in the river, because we were like, well, what about the sturgeons? But they swim with sharks in other cities and towns that they go to, so they weren't worried about it.
Good point.
I've had actually a lot of people have asked me about the sturgeons and what would actually happen to the swimmers. So I would imagine that it's not really an issue. It was never a concern.
Nope. So the sturgeons, of course, when we're setting up, we're down on the riverfront at like 3:30 in the morning. So all you hear is the sturgeons jumping and stuff, because it's a swim start race for 6 a.m. And that's based on tides with the river, because we want to be swimmers to be going with the tide. So always people ask, why is that swim start determined? And that's why. But the boats are out there, the volunteers are out there. So you can slowly start hearing the sturgeon jumps go down and down. And so by the time the swimmers get into the water, they're probably already at the base of the river. There's no one jumping. There's no one being impaled by the sturgeons or anything like that. They actually fully embraced it. Ironman did. They put it in the logo for Augusta. They use a lot on their swag. So they really embraced the sturgeon culture of Augusta.
So there's a lot of locals around here that are terrified of ever going into that river.
Yeah.
They remember it from way back when it was, all the chemicals coming out of the
mills,
factories.
right? There's a lot of contamination.
Mills, yeah. So, what did they do to was there, how many tests of quality did they have to do to ensure that the river was safe? Yeah.
So it's a constant flow. It's a tidal, river. So what they test today is going to be different tomorrow versus next week. So they test the water probably about up to 10 times leading up to the race, because even the race week, they tested it when they first come in about 2 weeks in, and then 2 days before, and then the day before. So it's really, they want to make sure. And it's been amazing. So they test the water wherever they go. And I will say that nobody has to worry about swimming in the Kennebec River. It has very high quality rates.
Fantastic. Yeah. I've done it before. I know technically not supposed to.
I was going to say, technically.
Yeah, technically.
I think, didn't someone bet you to see if you could actually cross the river?
Yes, that's true.
Did you actually make it, or did you turn around halfway?
You know what? It's an argument until this day. I made it halfway there and halfway back. And to me, that counts as a full length.
So you never
especially with the
argument.
tides and stuff like
Exactly.
that. It's aggressive.
Exactly. You have to be a pretty strong swimmer to go from, point A to point B. But I don't know. I still think I made it.
When I walk down on the rail trail, there's sometimes where the river's going at a walking speed, so I'm thinking maybe around 3 miles an hour. And then there's other times where it's a jogging speed, and I'm thinking it's like 6 miles an hour. This actually gets into, so I've heard that we have had some of the fastest swim times, and that has been a really interesting opportunity for the people at Ironman.
Yeah, so I'm going to pull up the text that I got from the race director that morning of the race, because so this year we were actually a pro event. So we had pro athletes come in, which was amazing because we didn't have that last year. So it brought our race already to a different level.
And what makes it a pro event other than just pro athletes? Like, is there a qualifying aspect of this Ironman, for example?
Yeah. So they were able to qualify to go to Worlds this year. So there was over about 50 pro athletes that came in. So, normal athletes, they say, based on the economic study, bring about almost like 2.4 people with them. These pro athletes bring in like their entourage. You know what I mean? They got 10, 15, they got sponsors, they got their masseuse, they got everybody with them. Wow. So the morning of the race this year, fastest swimmer went for 14 minutes, 14 seconds.
Oh, wow. And
the slowest was 30 minutes, 44. Some people were cutting half of their swim time. So they were PRing. So as soon as last year, of course, it was the first year. So as soon as people got out of the river, DC, who's the Northeast director, was like, as soon as this gets out, your numbers next year are going to be crazy. And we noticed that. We trend really high this year, but then once this happened, the river was faster than last year because we had a huge storm. I don't know if you guys remember the night before, and it cut people's times in half.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm thinking with that current, I could probably do less than 20 minutes.
Well, and that's the thing. People were like, oh, I'm not a strong swimmer, but hey, I'll do it here. But then again, you do it here, but then you go to Worlds and what do you
Still a qualifying event. So
Exactly.
yeah, take advantage of it.
And between that storm and the amount of rain that we had this summer, the river's been riding high and riding faster than normal as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, wow.
So you did say that it was a relatively easy sell to Ironman at the end of the day, but doing something like this, there's got to be complexities because you've got different municipalities that were involved. Mm-hmm. Did you encounter challenges and obstacles that you kind of had to address in order to actually make this happen?
I think making it come to fruition in the beginning, I met with the city manager of Augusta. I met with the other municipalities that had a big touch on it because some are just little routes, but some like, downtown Hollowell, we're shutting down some streets. It's making a bigger impact. So we did have some conversations beforehand, but realistically, everyone was excited. When I was I had Ironman gave me an economic impact from a previous site that kind of was in our same populations, kind of the community was the same. And so when people saw that, they were like, wow, but they also didn't believe me. So I think now going into year 2, we were very successful. A lot of the restaurants were more prepared. People believed me when I said thousands of people are going to be coming to downtown Augusta. So it was great.
So we have an economic impact study. Now we only actually have from the first year. But we're actually waiting for the latest one to be completed.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about what actually was the economic impact? Like, can you just give us a little bit of an overview?
Yeah. So from 2022, from our first year, our economic impact, they said, was about $2.6 million. And that is broken up from hotel rooms, lodging, Airbnb. So how they do this is they base it off from the athletes. Mm-hmm. So this is how the athletes, they do like a survey in the end and stuff like that. So we know how many people come with them, how many runners, so how many people are in their travel party size is what they say. So we have visiting spectators on the list too. But again, that's just because of the race party. We have no idea how many spectators come in from just, people living in the area too. So it was about 3,400 people that came to town just within the athletes. And when you think of this too, so there was the total number attending runners in 2022 was 1,292, and 97% of those people were outside from Kennebec County.
Wow.
So that's a lot of people that were coming here that probably have never even been here before.
So how did you track a lot of this information?
It's based off the athletes.
So when the athletes
sign up, we're able to get like an economic kind of study throughout the whole registration process. So even leading up to this year, I would get like monthly reports to say where we're at. What's the top 10 countries? What's the top 10 states that were coming? Did
you get any self-reporting from any restaurants or retail or anything like that?
So we did a survey this year to touch base with some of the restaurants. So we're still collecting that feedback now. But I mean, you sent me some, testimonials, the text the week of, the night of, being like, this restaurant has never had this much sales,
Yep. For sure. I'm just thinking, Kushnock, they had, I think, their best day ever. Which is pretty amazing. I think that they sold over 300 pizzas, which is a lot.
I believe Wrapped Up Coffee House, I think they did, in one day, they did the sales of a week.
Yeah.
I think Raging Bull did also pretty well because when they were closed. Whiskey Kitchen had a good time. But you and I were sitting there, we were actually just drinking beer and we were just applauding as everyone was kind of coming back because you have the pro athletes who are completing in record times, but there was a lot of people that it was taking a little bit longer to finish. And I just think it was a fun thing to just go out and support everybody and just let everybody know and feel recognized that, that we're actually seeing what they're doing. And, I thought it was actually a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. That was my favorite part, is just watching the swimmers and then transition to bikes and then the runners. Like it was just, it was an all day thing.
Yeah.
It was great.
But there was also, I was actually really surprised that there was also so many different ages of people who were participating. I saw younger people, I saw older people, and I actually felt like a little embarrassed. I was like, man, I should totally try and do this, because I was seeing people in their 60s and in their 70s doing this. And I'm like, I couldn't do that.
And pulling it off.
And doing it. Yeah, it was actually quite inspiring.
Yeah. And I will say too, to touch base on the community side of things, our satisfactory rate from the athletes, so this is just from this year, overall satisfaction, we were 90% from the athletes as a host. And then last year, 88. So we already grew from 88. Wow.
Do you have any ideas of what some of what those numbers were like maybe in other places? Because is it normally that high?
I don't think so, based on kind of the feedback that I got from like the race director and stuff like that. I'm not sure how it compared to when they were in Old Orchard Beach or anything like that, but I would say we're better.
Well, generally I find people in Maine are quite hospitable.
Yeah.
And I actually think people in Maine are very, very welcoming and friendly.
So there's a Facebook athlete group, and of course I follow it just to kind of get the buzz and see what people are saying. And you wouldn't believe some of the comments after, in a good way. They were like, I have never stayed at a hotel doing an Ironman that will wake up at 3 a.m. and give us breakfast before we have to do the race. You know what I mean? Like, so things like that, or, the tattoo shop downtown, doing Ironman, Kushnock doing a swim, bike, run, like they don't do that anywhere else. We also do the welcome party on Friday night to welcome all the athletes to the region. No other race does that. So just that difference that we think is a really easy lift and just a welcome, it says a lot to the athletes, and they love coming back just because of that.
And for the welcome party, how did that go this year?
It went great.
Yep.
Yeah. So we moved the athlete briefing on Friday. So there's different athlete check-ins just to make sure they know the course and the rules. We moved the one on Friday night down to Mill Park, so it got more people this way. We were trying to share the love throughout Augusta, get people to get from Capitol Park, go through downtown and see it. So that's why we do it down at Mill Park. So people have to go through downtown and say, oh, I didn't realize that shop was there or that was there, kind of a thing. But it was great. We had bands, we had fireworks over the river to kind of welcome everybody. We had food trucks. It was
fantastic.
Good. Raising money for our cause, supporting our neighbors, helping to recognize those that should be recognized, providing educational opportunities, working together to make someone's day just a bit brighter. Our employees enjoy being a part of making our communities a better place to live and work. Skowhegan Savings Bank.
So I would imagine that there was a lot of community volunteers as part of the project. So can you just maybe kind of speak to what did that look like?
Yeah, so I'm going to pull up our final count for volunteers for this year. So our total amount for volunteers this year, we had over 800.
Wow.
Is this one of the,
Wow.
How does that rate with other community-focused events that the Chamber's involved in? Is this
the most we need? Yeah. So last year we were over 700 volunteers for Ironman. We pushed it this year because we changed some of the routes. So some of the like water stations out on the bike course needed to be double-sided, so it was double the manpower. But the great thing is that these people come from all over. They're not just from our community. They're coming up down from the Waterville area, or there are participants' families that are their athletes checking in. And they're saying, "Hey, I'm just hanging out while my athlete, is doing the race. Can I volunteer at a certain section?" So even the athletes' families are involved and are giving back because they're like, "Well, I'm just going to be hanging out for 4 hours and waiting for them to cross the finish line. Can I help hand out water? Can I help?" Or we did have one couple that. Their daughter was running, so they wanted to volunteer at the finish so they could put the medal across the neck. You know what I mean? So even the athletes were coming around, so it was great.
That's incredible.
So to me, it just seems like this is with the Chamber being involved in bringing this event to Augusta, this kind of seems like it's got to be one of the more fun type of things. But can you maybe talk a little bit about the Chamber and your role and the role that the Chamber plays in the community?
Yeah, so based on Ironman or the community as a whole?
I think just in general, yeah.
So the Kennebec Valley Chamber covers 23 communities in the lower Kennebec Valley area, and we have just under 700 members. So it's a big reach, and we're just a staff of 5. So we do rely heavily on a lot of our board members and volunteers. And our main job is to enhance the life quality of our community and our business members. So especially you think Ironman, the economic impact that it has, especially coming out of COVID, it was the perfect time for especially the hospitality world, the restaurants to be able to get their feet back under them and really feel like, okay, this is great, because the economic impact of $2.6 million from Ironman is huge. And then we do other events throughout the whole year. Monthly, we have, after hours and women's luncheons. And so we're building our network here, but then to get other people to come to the area, like with our Brew Fest, and people can say, "Oh, I've never been to Augusta. I'll go to Augusta because they have the Kennebec River Brew Fest." And then they're here and they see what else is available. They're going to dinner after. So our main focus is really to get people to come here to help build our members in our restaurants and our businesses in the area. And then hopefully they move here. They start a business here because they see how great it is.
Are there any things coming up here this fall, this winter that are already in the works or scheduled?
So in the fall, we do 2 7th Up programs. So they're called the 7th Up Biz program. So they say that 7th grade is the most influential year that you start thinking about what you want to do for the rest of your life. So we've been doing it with Coney since 2019. So we're doing it again with Coney. We're going to bring all the 7th graders into different businesses into the area so they can see what's available right here. So when they start thinking about college or what they want to do, they know what's available right in their backyard. So even if they do go away for college, they know that when they come back, there's all these different job opportunities. So you think Maine General, well, you can be a doctor, but you can be a chef. You can be in IT. You can be in security. There's so many different aspects of every different business that we really want to make sure our students coming, our future workforce, knows what's available. And so we're doing that in October, early October, and then mid-October, we're actually extending it out to do Gardner as well.
Nice. Fantastic.
Yeah. We just finished up our golf tournament yesterday, so we are just rocking and rolling. Gearing up for Kenny's in January before we know it.
Nice.
And that's another big undertaking right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just to recap for 2023, we don't have the full economic impact, but we had over 2,200 people signed up for the race. The day of, more than 1,800 athletes started, which included competitors from 28 countries, regions, territories, and 47 states.
Wow.
Does doing an event like this, well, actually, how about this? We're going to see Ironman for how many more years? Is it another 2 or 3?
So we just extended the contract for another 3 years after 2024. So we're going to go to 2027.
Oh, that is exciting.
So obviously it was, so not just the benefit to the community, but just to the race itself, to the organizers. They really recognize that this is kind of a special location for an event like this.
Oh yeah, they're invested. And I think we, as long as it's a good position for the chamber and for our community, because we got to find what's that sweet spot? They want to keep growing the race, but we don't want to our city, we don't want to impact it too much. What is too much, that stress point of it's too much for our businesses to handle, too many athletes, too many hotels. So we're trying to find that sweet spot right now where do we shut off registration?
Well, here's the thing though, if it grows so big here, just because it goes somewhere else doesn't mean it's going to be as big, right?
That's right. it's growing because of the community, because of the hospitality, because of the businesses, because of the river.
It's growing because of Augusta.
That's right.
Yeah.
They're invested. They love it.
Does doing it, so this is actually kind of quite the feather in your cap, right? Or for the chamber, for the community, but bringing an event like this and the success that it's had, does this allow you guys to go after bigger and better things? Does this build towards what's next?
Yeah, so that was like my vision in my head. So I remember doing the interview with the KJ before Great Race started, and I said, this shows that Augusta can host these big events. People don't have to choose Portland or Bangor. Augusta can do it. And whether it's a city event that we all do together as a region or in the city of Augusta or at the Civic Center, we have the manpower. We have an incredible city staff at all of our regional towns. But we also have the huge Civic Center. We have Mill Park. It's beautiful. We have so many city parks that are gorgeous, and we can find the hotels. We have the restaurant support. We have the workforce. So yes, I think that this is going to set us up to hopefully have other stuff come here. So in 2018, we did the Great Race event, which was an antique car roadshow kind of a thing. It's coming back in 2024. When they were here in 2018, they said they normally never go back to the same spot. But again, our hospitality in the Kennebec Valley region is very different. And they last time came back for a random Tuesday night. It was a stop through. They were finishing up in Nova Scotia. This time they're going to come in on a Friday night, stay in Augusta, Friday, Saturday, and then end in Gardner on Sunday. So it's good. Not only were they never going to come back, they're coming for 3 days now, which they have never done. And they're making us the ending spot.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about the vendor suppliers that you go through with Ironman.
Yeah, so the number one thing that I made sure that Ironman knew when they were coming to this area is that they would use our members. So that's the great thing. So we share our hotels, and you think of the vendors from tents to porta potties to docking systems. Those are all main vendors. Wow. So, and what's cool thing is that the people who supplied the dock here for the river, they're now using that dock system in other states. And think PFG, so they supplied a lot of the food and the water and stuff like that. They now use PFG in other New England locations. So because we connected them with some of our local businesses here, they are now using those vendors. So that's local money too that wouldn't have come and if Ironman wasn't here.
Oh, wow.
But this also is another example of, I'm just thinking from Main Street, just the work that the Augusta Downtown Association has done, as well as other groups, but making investments for a decade or more and rejuvenating historic downtown communities. That type of work, then, after so many years of investment and labor, it ends up paying off with something like this. Like, this is kind of a cool celebratory moment of all of the people who've actually made investments in their community.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, the Ironman staff love the architecture of downtown, the painted buildings, the murals, the sturgeon sculptures they loved that. That was huge. I hope you have that every year because that was a huge selling point.
Planted too.
Yeah, they loved it. I mean, but also the merchants downtown, they created special hours. They opened at 3:30, 4 a.m. They had specials. It was just a great community event. And you also saw, Amar had the live broadcast going on. They were cheering in the streets. It was a great community event.
What do you think that we could do as, collectively as our communities in Kennebec Valley to make this even bigger?
Yeah.
To make it even a bigger deal?
I don't know. We were talking about creating something for the athletes to have that was just for the towns that it was with, kind of like a guide per se. Like, we already do a chamber guide, but make this a smaller version just for the athletes to really make sure they know all the businesses that are open, their hours. Maybe if the businesses wanted to have a special Ironman discount or special that they're doing, it could be promoted in this, and we could do better at getting that maybe at the hotels or at their athlete check-in and stuff like that.
And I noticed that this year, over last year, there was a lot more specials going on, a lot more. Yeah, it just seemed like a lot more buzz.
Yeah.
Downtown Diner had, Ironman specials the day of for breakfast specials, and everybody just seemed to be getting into it. You could feel it, when you walk the streets. Yeah,
and I think that is part because they probably thought I was crazy last year when I said that, thousands of people were coming. I mean, we can do better at getting more people downtown too. It's really hard with the start being up at Capitol, I say the start. So Ironman Village is in the Capitol Park. That's kind of where athletes check in, and then when they have their merchandise, and the finish line is right down there. But the start is on Front Street, and of course the race goes down Water Street. But how do we get more of, the families that are, at the start down at, I say at the start again, I mean Capitol Park, down to Water Street. So to know that they can cheer on people from that way. So maybe is there a shuttle service we should be doing? We got to start thinking creatively outside the box too.
So year 1, there was no live streaming, but year 2 there was. Do you know much about that?
Yeah. So the live stream was because it was a live pro event. So because it was a pro event, they only choose certain pro sites every year. So we never know when we'll be a pro site again. We don't know if we'll be at a pro site next year. So this year we were a live broadcasted event. And,
No, that's okay.
So looking at the stats, they were able to share with me some of the stats of the live broadcasting and the total results of the total reach. So this is pretty cool. So I don't know if people weren't around the day of, we had cameras on the back of some motorcycles following the pro athletes. And if you clicked on the link, which you can still go to Ironman website and see that, our region was so beautifully broadcasted. Like, it's really great to see because it just brought our whole town to life. So they were following all the pro athletes all the way to the finish line, going in and out. And so the total results of the total reach was 1.5 million viewers. So it put Augusta on a map. And
basically the entire state of Maine.
It put it on a totally different, you know what I mean? So, and that was everything from watching it, the live feed, to then also watching the promo assets leading up to it, and then the recorded vision.
Wow.
Yeah, that's actually quite amazing.
Yeah.
So it's even more successful just throughout the country and internationally to have that many people and eyeballs seeing Maine, seeing this community.
And that's something that you don't think about, too often. I mean, we're very focused on what's it doing here, but what's it doing for Augusta out there?
Yeah.
Well, absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about what it takes. We touched on this a little bit with all the municipalities meeting the city manager. How many months though does it take? You got to coordinate with each fire department, each police department, all of that, and factor all that into it. How many months of meetings does that take to lead up to it?
So we're already meeting for 2024.
Wow.
So as soon as we end, we have a debrief and we roll right into it. So when you mentioned the municipalities, so we touch on a lot of municipalities, but also we call it all agency meetings. We have a Zoom leading up to it. And then as we get closer, Ironman will fly in for a couple, and then leading the race week, we have another final one. It's from Coast Guard to MEMA to state police, sheriffs. It is everybody. So when I say it's an all agency meeting, it really is from Capitol Police to the, all our municipality, EMTs, fire, everybody.
Now, did you find that this year it was a little bit, more nuanced because you had done it before and a little bit easier to navigate?
Yeah. So last year it was a little hard. Last year it was hard because I was on maternity leave during some of the prep. So I had my son in March and they were coming in July for the first time. So I remember going to an all agency meeting and I had my 2-month son in the stroller because I was I got to be here. So the prepping was hard because we were a little short staffed in the office, and it was getting the right contact and making sure we weren't missing anybody. And then maybe there was an interim police chief in, and then there was somebody else. And so just making sure I was keeping that updated, because it was up to me to make sure Ironman had all the right contacts. So I was just really making sure that we were good there. And so leading into this year, it was 10 times easier, and we already had everyone on board. There were people that not that we left off, because it was just people, even this year, were I don't know if I'm a part of it, but I feel like I should be part of the conversations just in case. So we even had people come to the table that always hadn't been there, but wanted to be part of the conversation, which was great. Another great thing that Ironman does, so all of the food that's at the hydrating stations throughout the race, or for all the athletes, anything that's left over, it's donated back to the community.
Oh, that's great.
So we had local Boy Scouts in the, they actually camped out in the playground of the YMCA to be able to get some more badges. And then they were part of the green team. So they were the environmental team. They helped change trash cans and all of that. They were able to take home all the bottles at the end of the race. We had MEMA, and then also the veterans home pick up all the leftover food to take to their shelters. We worked with Bread of Life. They were able to take over any of the lunches that were left over. So that's the great thing too, is that they push it back into the community too.
Yeah, I from our own personal standpoint at Augusta Downtown Alliance, I see it. I see it with our businesses, like the effects that it has. It really leaves no nonprofit, no business, and no organization untouched. Like it really has an effect on everybody in a very positive way.
Well, so even the businesses that maybe aren't part of the hospitality world, but maybe say Kennebec Savings Bank, they have a team that's volunteering at an aid station. So it's great team environmental things too. So people are wanting to volunteer and be part of it because it's such a huge event that their business, they want to be part of it.
I can't wait to see what you come up with next, because you're going to have to top this one.
So that's our goal every year. We'll always make it better. But I mean, the great thing is that we do this. So the chamber doesn't, so everybody always asks this. So we got Ironman and we have a contract with Ironman, but we don't get any pushback from Ironman. We don't get, a certain percentage of every racer or anything like that. We are doing this just for the support of our community and to help grow our members. So all the extra legwork that it takes to get, all of this work leading up to it, and the manpower and all these logistical meetings and conversations, it is just for the betterment of our community and our region, because we know of the impact that it's making.
It's definitely paying off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think with that, I kind of feel like that we're at that point. So, Katie, I would like to thank you very much for coming and speaking with us. I think this was actually a really awesome opportunity to have a conversation and learn more about not just the work that you've done, but also to just what kind of an amazing impact that this event has brought to the community.
Thanks for having me. And anybody that's listening that wants to be part of it going forward, we're always looking for volunteers, committees, anything. If we're missing something too that we can improve, feedback is always welcome. We'd always like to make sure everybody's happy with the process.